Welcome back to the Vegas Knows podcast. This is episode 2. I am Marc Givler. I'm joined as always by Bill Greene. We're going to be diving into some more futures here in this episode. We hope you enjoyed the first one and are back here for the second one, and we'll continue to kind of evolve this as we go. And as sports begin to come back, we'll be able to broaden our scope a little bit. But I want to get us started off with some Super Bowl odds. There's futures out there for the Super Bowl to be played in February, and I've got some different picks that I like throughout the list, ranging from among maybe the 4 or 5 favorites all the way down into the middle of the pack type of picks. But I want to get your take first, Bill. Is there a pick or two out there you like for the Super Bowl?
Yeah, again, like we talked last week, with these futures, I mean, to me, this is it's fun money. You know what I mean? This is not like maybe the Ohio State-Oregon game where I'm going to look to, make my normal wager, whatever it is that, is normal for all of us. The futures are not a normal wager. I mean, this is 5 times less than what I would make a wager on during the season, maybe 8 times less. And I'm looking for some value here. I'm looking to, bet a little and win a lot. So when I'm looking at the Super Bowl, the thing I kind of rule out every year is I'm looking at last year's champion and nobody repeats. So the Chiefs are out for me, and they're the number 1 pick. Obviously, they deserve to be. And I think they're going to draw a lot of money. And I think these sports books are going to be glad to take your money to bet the Chiefs. Nobody repeats. Another thing is the Super Bowl runner-up, usually, you can go back and check this, they usually go 500 the next year or less. So the Chiefs are out for me. The Niners are out for me. Then, you start working your way down. I do not believe in the Baltimore Ravens. I just don't. I think they're a fraud. I think that's a gimmick offense. I think it gets solved. I think the Bucs this year are last year's Browns. Everybody likes the Bucs now. And a team right now, they're sitting there at 12-1. That team should be 25-1. So as I'm working my way down through these things, I just come back to a team that I don't root for them, but I'm taking the Cowboys again this year. I took them last year. 20-1. I mean, adding CeeDee Lamb just makes that offense more potent to me. I think they have a real, live, honest-to-goodness NFL head coach now, and not the guy they've had the past 10 years who I thought was worthless. So I'm taking the Cowboys at 20-1, maybe put $10 on it, $15 on it, $20 on it, something that, we'll look at this later in the year and see where it goes. But, if I could put $20 on the Cowboys here, I'll never miss that 20. That's the price of a pizza. And maybe later in the year, I pop $400 on them, or if they get alive in the playoffs and start rolling through the playoffs, you can hedge against that wager. So that's my pick right now. I love the value, and my pick is the Cowboys at 20-1.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't like the 2 favorites. I think Kansas City's gonna be really good again, but as
they
you
are.
said,
They are.
Yeah, repeating is brutally tough.
Doesn't happen. It doesn't happen.
I'm with you on the Ravens. I think that's maybe the worst value at 8-1 right now. I don't see any value there at all. You stole my thunder on the Bucs. I think Tampa should be down there. I mean, there's teams I like. There's teams I like at probably 40-1 or at least 25-1 better than I like the Bucs at 12-1. So I think Tampa's a 30-1 type of bet, and they're 12-1 right now. I think that's nuts. I do like the Saints at 12-1. I think the window is maybe closing a little bit there with Breeze, but I think they've got the talent on both sides of the ball. They've got an unbelievable home field advantage if they can roll through the regular season and get some home field. That's a really tough place to win. So that's one I like. I do think there's some value in Dallas. They burned me last year a little bit, but
Me too. Me too. We talked
I
about
think
this
the
last
coaching
year.
change should. I'm expecting the coaching change to help there. So yeah, I mean Saints, Cowboys. If we go down the list a little bit, Seattle is intriguing to me at 25-1. I think Pete Carroll is a good defensive coach. I think I find it hard to believe they're going to struggle on defense again. I just tend to think they're going to improve there. I just have faith they're going to improve a little bit there. I think Russell Wilson's the most underrated player in the NFL. And I think he had a lot of young weapons around him last year. I think another year of chemistry, could go a long way there. And, if you're of the belief that the 49ers are going to take a step back, well, wouldn't Seattle be a team that would benefit from that?
Absolutely.
And that's a tough place to play. If they would win the division and get some home field, that's a really tough place to play. So I kind of like, as kind of a long shot type of bet, I like Seattle. And oh man, Cleveland at 40-1 is spicy. I don't know. I don't think they're a Super Bowl team, but I like them to be a borderline playoff team. And if you can get them at 40-1 to, put $10 on or something, that might be something to look at as well. But yeah, if I had to just pick one, because I know I just kind of went all over the place there. If I was really trying to win this thing, I'm probably taking the Saints at 12-1, even though that's not, amazing value necessarily. But I just, among those top 5 teams that are all 12-1 or better, for me, the Saints is the only play among those 5. I don't like the other 4. So
yeah, another thing I wanted to mention with my Cowboys thing, and I think I mentioned it last week on our podcast, is you really have to worry about quarterback injuries. You look at the Steelers last year when Big Ben goes down and they're trying to replace him with the Duck or Mason Rudolph, and they have no chance. It's amazing they finished where they did last year. But I look at Dallas, and now Andy Dalton to me is not a great quarterback, but I love him as an insurance policy. If Dak would get hurt and go down, I think that offense with Zeke and Michael Gallup and Amari and now CeeDee Lamb, I think they could win around Andy Dalton with that great O-line. So I'm looking at that too. That and that meant a lot to me, seeing them sign a real live quarterback as a backup, as opposed to some of these backups that are awful. And my Steelers are my team. Their backups are awful. So I saw it firsthand. So I'm in with Dallas at 20-1. And like I said, I'm not a fan at all, but this is, not about really fandom. But I really like everything about that team this year.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's a team that, if Dak goes down, their season isn't over.
Right.
And I think the Saints are that way too. It's maybe a different cast of characters this year, but you don't have Bridgewater, but
right.
They can.
Right.
I think if Breeze got hurt, they could piece that together too. I mean, we kind of saw him do it last year. And I think Sean Payton's a good enough offensive coach to get them out of some of that stuff. So
yeah, he's real good.
So yeah, I mean those are probably my 2 favorites as far as that top tier of teams there. Like I said, there's some interesting value. Seattle 25-1, Minnesota 28-1 maybe, but I would probably go Saints. Can certainly see the logic on your Cowboys pick. All right, let's switch gears here for a minute. We were talking about the Heisman Trophy this year, and so we're gonna dive into that a little bit. I'm actually seeing on Bet Online, I'm actually seeing Justin Fields as the favorite at 1.
Right.
First of all, what do you think about that? What do you think about Fields? Should he be the favorite? Is 4-1 good or bad value? And kind of your thoughts on Justin Fields there.
Yeah, my whole thing on these futures is bet a little, win a lot. And you're not going to do that here. The one thing you could do if you had some guts would be to maybe whatever your normal wager is. Say you bet $100. You could conceivably bet $100 on Justin Fields, $100 on Trevor Lawrence, both of them 4-1. You're going to lose one of those bets, but I think the odds are really good. You're going to win one of them. I mean, that's probably the only way I would go here. I don't know. I look at these bigger numbers, and I did the research on this before, and I think a quarterback has won this award. It's staggering. If you look at the last 20 years, how many times it's gone to a quarterback, it's almost every year. So then where do you go if you want to take a shot at someone? I mean, it's kind of tough for me. If I was going to take a shot, I probably would play someone like, the old bet a little, win a lot syndrome. I probably would take a shot at someone like Bryce Young at Alabama, and I don't even know if he's going to start. So I don't know. Here, I think the only way you go is you take one of these long shots and you bet pizza money on it, fun money, and you laugh. Or if you're going to be serious, I think you could take Justin and Trevor Lawrence, bet them both, and I think one of those two I think is almost assured of winning this thing. So those are the only two ways I could see going with this. And, yeah, I'm kind of in a quandary when we come to, like, the Heisman this year. I think it's kind of tough.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time finding value here. I mean, I agree. Fields and Lawrence are the obvious choices right now. It's really become who's the quarterback on a national title contending team. That's really what the award has almost become. So could Sam Ellinger at 12-1 or Jamie Newman at 14-1? I guess I'm not. Georgia hasn't exactly been a great offense for quarterback numbers the last few years.
No,
I don't know if that's going to change this year. Newman's got some legs to him, so I don't know. One that's a little bit interesting to me, and I'm not even so sure that I'm sold on him completely yet, but I just like his situation right now, is Kyle Trask is 25-1. If you think Florida is going to be good this year, which I do.
And I do too.
If they're in the playoff hunt, wouldn't their quarterback be in the Heisman race at that point? I mean, wouldn't Kyle Trask at 25-1 if you're trying to take a flyer here and kind of nail an underdog pick here? I mean, that's an interesting one to me, just because he could be quarterbacking a playoff team.
Yeah, with their system, they're going to rely so heavily on that defense. I don't know. Does he end up being Craig Krenzel-ish, where even if they run the table and they're undefeated in November, does that still – will his numbers stack up to what Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence are going to put up? And this could be Trevor Lawrence, this could be his Lifetime Achievement Award, where he's been so good for so long. We know he's leaving after this year, and we just throw him a bone because he's been so great. Or does Justin Fields put up, Joey Burrow numbers, which he basically did last year? If the numbers are better, I think Kyle Trask has a problem at that point, even if they're undefeated, because I don't think they're going to put up the numbers in that system. I don't know. I'm in a tough spot when we're looking at Heisman stuff here. I really, really don't know where to go, to be honest with you on this. This is tough.
Yeah, I'm with you. I definitely can see the lifetime achievement thing with Lawrence. I'll wrap this up with one wild card. If I was to bet the Heisman, I would not only bet this guy. I would just kind of throw him in as an add-on to whatever else I was going to do. I do like the Fields Lawrence kind of bet them both to basically double your money. It looks like, I believe, right? I mean, if you put whatever you put on it, you can double it if one of them wins it. I do like that. Just a little bit outside the box here. I mean, with LSU, how much is Derek Stingley Jr. going to play on offense? If they actually let him do that, he's 50-1 right now. He's at a prominent program. I tend to think LSU is going to take a step back this year without Burrow and some of their other losses, but that's an interesting one enough to me where maybe you put $10 on it to win 500.
Yeah.
because he's the one guy. Because like I look at some of these other guys, like Brock Purdy's not going to win it.
No chance.
Auburn would have to be amazing for Bo Nix to win it. We don't know if Bryce Young's going to start. None of those Oklahoma State kids are going to win it. Not the Cunningham kid from Louisville is not going to win it. Najee Harris probably isn't going to win it. I mean,
no chance.
Like, Chuba Hubbard's not going to win it. Like, none of those guys are going to win this thing. And so you get down to Stingley at 50-1, and it's like he would be the one guy on this list that would bring something a little different to the table, where you could be a little bit of a Charles Woodson for them.
Charles Woodson year. Right.
And maybe that's your long shot play on the Heisman. That's maybe
I could see it. It's so dependent on Ed Orgeron not reverting back to being Ed Orgeron again too. I mean, although Stingley, like you say, could be that novelty dude that makes so many highlight plays that the team's record almost could be overlooked, where I don't think Justin Fields is winning this thing if Ohio State loses twice. And the same with Trevor Lawrence. So, yeah, I never really looked at that. But now that you say it, and so much is going to depend on, does he run back punts? Do they get him the ball on reverses? They throw it to him? Does he play on offense? But, yeah, I kind of like that at 50-1. What the heck?
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting. And, I'm sure they're probably going to update things here at some point before the season kicks off. So we may revisit this in August and kind of take another swipe at things, but that's just kind of where we have it today. Bill, I think you wanted to talk about a little horse racing, right? You had a Belmont pick or something.
Yeah. I mean, it's not the typical, Triple Crown type deal that we've seen in the past, where it's the first Saturday in May, the Kentucky Derby, and it's almost un-American to not put money on the Kentucky Derby. I would question why you're listening to this podcast if you're not betting the Triple Crown, but it's different this year with the Belmont Stakes, going first. And when you look at that race, there's a horse, Tis the Law is the 4-5 favorite. I'm not betting a 4-5 favorite in this kind of race. Now, should he win it? Yes, he should win this race. But things happen. When you come off Tis the Law and you decide you don't want 4-5, I like Tap It to Win. John Velasquez, big time jockey, but this horse has to have the lead to win. In the number one post position, it's a horrible post for him to have. They're going to have to send him right off the jump. I don't like it. The horse I'm going to take a shot at, and again, this is going to be pizza money. This is not going to be, college fund money. I like the number 9, Dr. Post, 6-1 odds. Nice return there. Great trainer in Todd Pletcher. Tremendous jockey in Irad Ortiz. So it only raced twice this year, and unbeaten in both. Hasn't faced anything like the competition he's going to face in the Belmont. But that guy's getting my money. Dr. Post, 6-1. I mean, I'm going to take a shot with him. And, again, not money that I'm going to miss if it's gone, if I lose. Because this race absolutely should be won by Tis the Law. And I'm not betting a 4-5 shot. There's just no way. So that's my pick here. Dr. Post in the Belmont.
The extent of my horse racing expertise is that I went to the Kentucky Derby when I was still in college, and I nailed Barbaro at like 6-1 on like a $50 or $60 bet, and I was a broke college kid at the time, and I had a blast in Louisville that weekend and came back with more money in my pocket than when I left to go down there. So that was one of the better college experiences that I had, and I probably haven't bet a horse race since. So I'm not even going to give you my amateur opinion on the Belmont.
Yeah, I'm a Triple Crown guy and possibly a Breeders' Cup guy. If there's no great football game going on at the time. So, and they've moved the Breeders' Cup now to a Friday, Saturday deal. So I usually look at the Friday races. And then, of course, Kentucky Derby, Preakness, Belmont. But other than that, I wouldn't watch a horse race. I'd watch a rerun of Law and Order before I'd watch a horse race. So, but anyway, I think it's un-American to not bet the Triple Crown races, and I'm a good American. So $10 or whatever on Dr. Post. That's my pick in the Belmont.
Well, we're going to hold you to that, and we'll revisit that after the race. You know, I don't think you're much of a hockey guy, Bill, but
I am not.
Okay. They're getting back to it here a little bit. Good chance that hockey's going to start here, maybe end of July, early August, and they're going to come back and they're going to do 24 teams. There's going to be a play-in, a 5-game series, kind of a play-in round. And then the favorites will, in the meantime, do a round robin for seeding. They'll eliminate 8 teams in the play-in round. We'll get to 16, and we'll have the standard NHL playoffs. There are some picks I like here. Much like with the Super Bowl, it is brutally difficult to repeat in hockey. It can happen. It just usually does not. So I'm kicking St. Louis out of there. They're 12-1. I'm going to get burned here. I get burned every year on this team. I'm going to do it again. I think Tampa Bay at 6.5-1. I think they're the most talented team in the league by a pretty good margin. I think they're probably really pissed off about losing in the first round to Columbus last year after having their historic regular season. And the one thing I don't know what to make of is before the stoppage, they were red hot. Like Tampa and Philly were probably playing the best hockey in the entire league pre-stoppage. And what that means now, you know, after a 3-month layoff and 4-month layoff or whatever it's going to be, end up being probably is meaningless. So I can't put too much into that, but I just look at Tampa's talent level and should be pretty much full health. And that's a pick I like. But there's a couple value bets I like, and I am not a Pittsburgh Penguins fan. I think anyone that's ever talked to me knows that. I'm a huge Flyers fan, but the Penguins were obliterated by injuries this season, and they're getting healthier, and they're 16-1 now. They're still one of the most talented teams in the league. They've got a lot of experience. They should be refreshed and healthy. 16-1, that to me is a good one to maybe throw $20 on and see what happens. And then I would even work my way a little bit further down. And I don't like the defense here. I don't particularly love the goaltending, but the Toronto Maple Leafs at 25-1 with all their offensive firepower, very interesting as well. For them, it could be tough just because I just don't know if they're going to get steady enough play on the blue line, but 25-1 is interesting. And then at the very bottom of the list, I mean, look, the Columbus Blue Jackets were the most injured team in the NHL this year. They're going to get almost all those guys back, and they're 66-1. So what would $10 be for that? You know, $660. You put 10 on the Blue Jackets would be my homer pick. But I look at that and I'm like, wow, that's some insane value for a team that was playing very well there. Right before the shutdown was really humming, and now they're going to get about 7 guys back from injury, and just with the unpredictability of this format, that could be an interesting for those who really like to play the roulette wheel on some of this stuff. Just kind of maybe $10 on that one, and if you somehow pop at 660, or you know, like Bill was saying with like the Cowboys making the playoffs and doing some hedging, yeah, if the Blue Jackets, you know, get off to a good start and they play Toronto in that first 5-game series, if they get past Toronto, or you know, they look like they're starting to play really well, maybe you hedge a little bit on the other teams that they face. But so those are kind of some interesting hockey picks there.
Hey, I want to stop you here and shock you just for the heck of it. I did kind of get into hockey a little bit this year with a little bit of DraftKings fantasy hockey. And I had some luck. And of course, you know, you're not really looking at who wins and loses, but I really had some good luck with the Edmonton Oilers and playing Leon Draisaitl. I don't even know if I pronounced his name right.
Draisaitl, yeah.
Connor McDavid. Those guys, I mean, now that is, you know, fantasy hockey has nothing to do with real hockey. But those guys, I mean, they score a ton of points. I mean, they're unbelievable. I mean, any chance Edmonton you know,
Yeah,
as an upset.
I mean,
28-1. Do they have a shot? Those are my dudes.
well,
Recital and Connor McDavid are my dudes.
you bring up an interesting point because here's my stance, and maybe some listeners will disagree, but I think the Eastern Conference is far better than the Western Conference at this point. I think it's better. I think it's far better at the top. I think it's deeper. I think it's a totally almost a night and day right now. I think the balance of power has shifted very heavily to the East in terms of the quality and depth of teams, which means the West, to me, is pretty wide open. And so Edmonton's kind of like the Toronto of the West, where they have all of this offensive firepower, and it's going to simply be a matter of, can they get a hot goalie at the right time? Can they get enough play out of their defensemen on the blue line? Can they get enough defense there? Because, yes, they can score. My goodness, those guys are talented. I mean, it's crazy how good those two guys are.
That's the extent of my
incredible
hockey knowledge right there. I just emptied the sack on my hockey knowledge right there.
Well, it's not a bad value pick because, again, the West is so wide open. It's like, Edmonton's 28-1, Dallas is 18-1, Nashville's 21. I mean, Edmonton's got, in my opinion, probably as good of a shot as those teams, and you're getting some value there. So it's interesting. I mean, I tend to think Colorado's the best team in the West, and at 7-1, I don't love the value there to win the Cup. But yeah, I think because all my picks were like Eastern Conference teams, if you made me pick like what's your Western Conference value pick, it probably is Edmonton, because I tend to think the East is going to win the Stanley. Whoever comes out of the East, I think, is going to win the Stanley Cup this year. But if you could get Edmonton, if they could advance just a little bit, then you can start hedging again. And it's like, there's you've given yourself some breathing room there at 28-1 to hedge a little bit and make some cash. Well,
they're also 12-1 to win the West.
That's not a bad one either.
I mean, that's a pretty good return.
Yeah, that's not a bad one either. Yeah, like I said, the problem with the playoffs is, everything kind of tightens up a little bit. And so you really have to be able to defend, and you got to get goaltending. And it's just like, sometimes that happens. You can get teams that, there's teams all the time that don't defend particularly well during the regular season, but then their goalie gets hot for 2 or 3 weeks, and before you know it, they're in the conference finals. So it's kind of a wild card play, but yeah, I mean, if I had to bet a West team, that's probably where I would go. I don't really like a lot of the West lines. So, yep, that'll be that'll be interesting. Anything else, Bill, before we sign off?
No, that's it. I mean, this is, like I said, I look forward to doing these every week, and I think this is going to be so much fun once sports kicks in, especially college football. Doing this every week, I think we're planning on releasing this on Friday during college football season. I think it's going to be just a blast every week, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to kind of looking at the lines, going into the weekend on, college football and the NFL and stuff, and kind of, each Friday kind of giving our best plays or whatever. And I'm sure we'll lose a ton of money. And
yeah,
it's this.
Of course,
this is amateur hour here, guy. We are not. If we were that good, we'd probably both be living in Vegas doing this for a living. But
right.
It's fun to talk about. I'm always fascinated by the lines and the line movement and all that stuff. So
and we have had some posters that have done really, really well. I know you had a couple of guys that when you were at Buckeye Grove, and I had a couple of guys that were really good when I was over at Bucknuts. So, if somebody gets hot, and maybe we put them on the podcast with us and get their thoughts.
Yeah, no question. I'm looking forward to maybe doing some stuff like that, having maybe a guest picker or something like that. We'll definitely continue to evolve this, and I think that's definitely something we'll be doing down the road. I mean, in the meantime, you guys, we have a thread on the BuckeyeScoop.com message board where we all kind of throw our opinions in there and things like that. It's always a good resource for me to kind of see where I'm at versus kind of what the consensus is or what the public thinks. And so that thread's always a fun time. So you guys want to jump in there if you're interested in kind of talking about this stuff. But other than that, I think we're pretty much up here. We didn't want to run too long on this. And, thanks, guys, for listening, and we'll catch you next time.